Well, I hope that got you dancing in your seat and on your couch or wherever you were, right? This is me. So I picked that song because of the words, right? When she sings the words that cut me down, right? And we're so inundated with words these days that can really impact our belief in our own ability to manifest and in the miracles that we expect. Of course, we know they're not miracles, and yet that's what they look like. And so when we are lifted in our spiritual truth, we get to expect it. We get to expect our manifestation. So Karen and I have gotten phone calls in the last 2 nights, Friday night late, and then Saturday not so late, from Jason and our daughter-in-law, Crystal. We're going to the hospital. And we're going to have the baby, and lots of excitement. And then the next thing we get is a phone call. The first one, Friday, came 3 hours later. And then on Saturday, the phone call came an hour later. We've been sent home. And there seems to be some confusion between the hospital and the doctor. Of course, the hospitals are freaking out as they're getting ready for the onslaught of people and patients. And good enough, Jason's still allowed to go right now. And there's some confusion between what the doctor wants and what the hospital and the ER people want. And and
C-section or not.
C-section or not.
Labor or not.
Yes, there's all kinds of confusion. And and so that's been a little challenging. And so here's what I know. This baby is going to be born. This baby is going to be born. And mother and baby and my son and our bonus grandchild are going to be fine. Why? Because we expect it so. That's a part of what it means to be expecting, right? When you have a baby, it's going to come. Despite all of this craziness right in this moment, despite any other challenges through the course of the pregnancy, and how long does pregnancy take? 9 months. Oh my God. And the last month, for those of you moms out there, well, and dads too, who have had to go through it, you know that last month is not fun. And yet, the baby will be born. Do you see? And so, because it's inevitable, because it's absolutely going to take place, it is the law of gestation and birth that the baby will be born. And so, this is our final step out in faith. Manifestation is not miraculous. And the last piece is to expect the manifestation. So I've been thinking about this talk now for, quite a while as we've come to it. And I keep circling around. Actually, we talked about it at the core council meeting on Saturday. I keep circling around this piece of wisdom that I actually wrote down in an inspirational book that I wrote for myself when I was 12 years old. I gathered all the inspirational quotes that I could find, and I made it into a book that I would read, and then ultimately actually made it into books that I gave to my family. This is what I believe. This is how I want to live my life. And some of them were really, pretty amazing. And so this word of wisdom that I wrote down: expect the best, prepare for the worst, and take what comes. And I have to tell you, that's been a big mantra for me my entire life. Expect the best, prepare for the worst, and take what comes. Now, I was a Girl Scout, I was a Brownie, right? Be prepared. I'm a hiker. I'm always prepared. It can be 100 degrees outside, and I can be hiking in the sunniest day of 100 degrees in the mountains, and my backpack is filled with my 10 essentials. Why? Because in the 40 years I've been backpacking, I have, in 100-degree weather, when I left at the bottom of the mountain, I've gotten caught in a hailstorm, a lightning storm, a snowstorm, in the middle of the summer, in the mountains. And let me tell you, I was super grateful that I had my 10 essentials. I think that we forget that being prepared does not mean that we are manifesting that. It means that we are taking care of the human condition. But we want to expect the best. This is not only a psychological attitude, but even when we talk about manifestation, even beyond these two ideas, expect the best, expect it, right, is the place that we come to because we've done all the other work. And we expect manifestation. We want to live in a state of expectancy. Like, yes, I'm expecting my manifestation any minute, just like we are expecting a baby to be born. All through the entire 9 months, we are expecting a baby to be born, right? And we hold that sense of expectancy the entire time. So Jesus says this, ask believing you have already received, and you will receive. Right? That is the attitude of expectancy, and it is the outcome of understanding the process of manifestation and our use of the law. I mean, it's as simple as we expect the cake to bake and for it to be finished at the end. When we order at the restaurant, we expect our meal to arrive. We're stunned if something happens and it doesn't come, and if it doesn't come as we've ordered it. Right? We expect this out-picturing.
We order the groceries online and we expect them to be delivered now.
Right, and they are. It's great. It's fabulous. And so this kind of expectancy, this deep understanding of this expectancy comes very much out of, we can tease it out of the teachings of Jesus. And I want to give a shout out. Karen's going to be doing the metaphysical teachings of Jesus starting this Thursday for the 5 Thursdays in April. We're using our book of the month, which is the philosophy of Jesus. We're using a gender neutral and updated version. We do have that book in the Book Nook, and you can order it from BB from online, and so we'll send it to you.
We'll ship it, and she may deliver it. She delivered it to some people's front doors
I
already.
love that. That's awesome. That's great. So because we want to keep diving into this place, this attitude of expectancy. And so, so how are we taking up this shelter in place time? How are we taking up our own personal time of being at home? We should expect our time sheltering in place to be okay, maybe even more than okay. Expect it to be fruitful and creative, potentially restful, connecting despite fear or worry or doubt, right? We are in charge of our expectancy. Gabby Bernstein, in our great book, The Super Attractor, I hope you're finishing it up. It's really quite extraordinary. She goes all over all kinds of things. Really brilliant work. And she says this, living with happy anticipation of what's coming clears the path for solutions in all situations, even the difficult ones. Mm-hmm. Right? Expectancy does not mean that it's going to be a long, happy uphill climb into nirvana, right? But what it means is that we expect to be able to move through any obstacles. We expect that whatever twists and turns there are on the path, whatever's going on, that we can in fact move through it and that our manifestation is assured. I just started a Thomas Troward class, which I really, really loved, Creative Process in the Individual, right? And we've got fabulous folks. Hi, for all of you who are in class, I really love it. He says many wonderful things, but one of his most quoted things is cheerful expectancy. When we are using the law, and we know that we are using a law, then our expectation is cheerful. We expect things to manifest. And I always feel like a little bit like a little kid, like ready to look under the Christmas tree. What's there? What's there? I wonder what's in that package. How's it going to work out? I think about all the expectancy that I have when I'm ready to go on a vacation, or I'm looking forward to something that I have decided on, whether, right, it's something fun, a great concert or a meal, or I'm expecting a really fabulous class, or I'm really looking forward to my own spiritual practice, a really great spiritual mind treatment, right? I have a positive, cheerful expectancy. Ernest Holmes says this, expectancy speeds progress. Expectancy speeds progress, right? So that we don't keep undermining, our treatment and then having to go back and do it again, right? Expectancy speeds progress. Therefore, live in a continual state of expectancy. No matter how much good you are experiencing today or how much difficulty, expect greater good tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? No matter what that greater good might look like, no matter what's going on in our own lives, to expect greater good tomorrow. So for me, this idea, expect the best, prepare for the worst, and take what comes, has really become an attitude for me where I really do always expect things to work out. I do. And miracle of miracles, surprise, surprise, they do. Like 98% of the time.
That's pretty good.
That was a statistic I just made up, right? All statistics are made up right on the spot.
She's an A++ student here.
But no, really, I expect things to work out, and sometimes I'm surprised that they do. But mostly they do. From rock star parking, I'm the queen of rock star parking, to finding great deals for things that I'm looking for, to growing a community. I expect my ministry to unfold. I've done a lot of work with a lot of communities and a lot of people all over the country and a lot of not-for-profits. And I'm surprised at how often people expect to have problems. I don't. I don't expect to have problems. I expect whatever comes up and whatever twitchiness we have with each other, somebody gets their nose out of joint, or we get on, or whatever it is financially, or I expect we're going to work it out. I expect our community to grow and prosper and thrive, and every single person in our community to grow and prosper and thrive.
Every single person.
And then that's also what I experience, because that's what I expect. And this is built on the work that we've been talking about, right? Believe it, see it, be it, do it. All of that work gives us a solid ground to expect it.
Yes.
I think it's your turn.
Okay. I love this quote from Ernest Holmes. He tells us that principle is not bound by precedent, and our good is not limited or conditioned by any good that has ever been manifest. So it's not limited even by the good that we've had even before now. That good doesn't limit it. He tells us that we should confidently expect a greater good than we have ever experienced or that we have ever known of anyone experiencing. So, I love that, because some people are like, well, but I'm not experiencing good right now, or I haven't really been someone who experienced a lot of good. And so how do I expect this? Well, then you start looking to people that have experienced a lot of good. And if they have, expect that you do too, because it's all the same thing. I love the fact that I've grown over these 14 years of studying science of mind. My expectancy has grown and grown and grown, and sometimes I've done things that most people wouldn't even think about doing, like leave a highly successful 23-year career in sales and marketing executive, like the top of the game, and decide to move into ministerial school for 3.5 years without working, and still paying half the bills of the household while doing so. And I wasn't guaranteed success, but I expected that every class I took, every spiritual practice I did, et cetera, led me to become an ordained minister. And that took 10 years from start to finish. That was not a short road, right. But I expected not only to be that minister, but to thrive after becoming one, right? Some of you know that one of the stories I love to share is when Petra asked me to come do ministry with her, I had to sell a house in the Bay Area in Oakland. And I worked with a real estate agent and my ex-partner, and I grew my expectancy. I expected to sell a house, but I started to grow the expectancy of how much I was going to sell it for. And it started at about $1.1 million, and then I got that, and I expected that, and I grew my expectancy, and then I went, oh, how about 1.2? And I grew that, and I grew that, and then it was like 1.3. And when I got solid on that $1.3 million, I didn't move. I expected it. It didn't matter what happened in the process. You remember the time that several friends, we were all hanging out, and I got a call from the real estate agent, and she said, this whole thing is just dropping, and the deal's falling out. And I said, no, I expect the good. I didn't move from that. We all did spiritual mind treatment in a moment.
Do you remember, I remember what she told you at the beginning, what you were going to list it for. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah. She was like, well, if you're expecting over $1 million, maybe I'm not your real estate agent,
right,
because I can't promise that, and I can't really expect that.
Yes.
And
said,
so she said, so we're going to list it for $945,000, and that was not my break-even point at that. And I bought that house during 2 weeks before the bottom fell out of the housing market. Right. I still expected not to lose money on that decision. And sure enough, sold it for $5,000 over $1.3 million. Right. I know for all my adult life, I expected to find my soulmate. And it didn't matter what relationship I was in. I expected maybe that was it, but then that shifted, and then I expected it again, and then I expected it again, and then I expected it again, but I didn't move off that expectancy of, in this lifetime, I find my soulmate, and here she is. Unexpectedly, but expectedly. Right. See? Right. And I always expect to live an abundant life. That's something I don't move off of. No matter what's happening, no matter what the country's doing, no matter what the stock market is doing, no matter whether I have a job or not, because this life is my source, not a particular job or a particular way of my 401k and how it's looking right now. I expect it to provide more than enough when I decide to retire. Doesn't matter what happens now between now and then. I think now the last thing that I'll share right now about expectancy and an example is, I have so grown my expectancy when I do a spiritual mind treatment that I expect, especially when I do that for someone else other than myself, I expect to get the TSRW afterwards, which basically means this shit really works, or this science really works. I expect to get that text or that phone call because I asked for it, that yes, thank you, I got my TSRW. So how do we generate and how do we grow this expectancy? Well, Ernest Holmes tells us that we begin to fill our thoughts with the idea of faith, the expectancy of good, and the realization of plenty. So we have to begin to use our own thoughts. We sense, he says, and mentally see in our own mind's eye with our imagination right action in our life. So what is that right action in our life? We put our whole trust in the law of good, and it becomes very real to us as we definitely speak it into being, into our being and into the being of our affairs. We deny anything and everything that contradicts our realization of our truth. So we expect it, and if anything comes up, we deny that being our truth. We oop, no, and everything that contradicts it. So let's talk about the world right now. The world and our expectancy. So begin to show ourselves how and where it is working. Not where it's not. So right now, if any of us are reading the news or watching the news, here's what's happening. We're starting to hear all these number of deaths that are climbing, or at least cases and deaths. And so that can shift our expectancy in the world. And we, as conscious people that know how this works, we must start looking for, because the reports are starting to come out, how many people have been diagnosed and are now through this virus successfully. Start looking for the expectation of, like anything else, like when I got diagnosed with cancer, I expect to move through it very quickly. So if anyone that you know, yourself, anyone in this world, in any country, in any place, when you see the number of cases, expect everyone to move through this quickly with health and wholeness on the other end of that. How are we expecting the people in our leadership to show up right now? Okay, maybe we need to do a little inventory in our own minds. Are we expecting certain leaders to keep doing the same thing that we believe isn't working? Or are we now expecting, no matter who it is, from a local to a national or an international level, that we expect right now, no matter what the precedent has taken place, that great decisions are taking place, that all these companies are now producing ventilators to masks to et cetera, that we're all working collaboratively? Are we expecting that? In same way with all of our healthcare workers putting themselves on the front line, expect that they get the greatest care, they get those masks, they get the things that they need so that they can tend to everyone and begin to see our healthcare workers being taken care of at the highest potentiality and possibilities right here and right now. Let's expect that, every single one of us, and expect this to not take a long time to move through, no matter what. And expect that in our own consciousness, then we look at it from not only the collective, but also our own way, expect us to rise above the averages. It's like anything else. 1 in 3 gets this, or 2 in 10 gets this. Expect ourselves to rise above the averages and deepen. This is the time to really deepen our spiritual conviction and show ourselves that what's worked before for any of us or all of us or some of us, if anyone else can do it, if Peter can do it, if Karen can do it, and by the way, a lot of people in our community are doing this like great guns right now, then that means that you can too, right? So the key questions are asking ourselves, what are we expecting during this time? Do that inventory. What are we expecting about our finances? Are we each expecting them to get worse? I hear a lot of that. I'm expecting mine to get better. Really, I am. I'm expecting mine to get better. So things show up. We just got 3 unexpected checks in the mail just in the past 2 days. We were like, wow. I only check the mail once a week, but we got it in the past 2 days, 3 unexpected checks. Things show up, channels open up unexpectedly, things coming from programs or relief programs right now, or friends, or new ideas, or new jobs, or new opportunities. Maybe this is time to move into a new job that we like more. And the last thing I'll share right now is that we were talking to a friend the other day, and if we're reading about the symptoms, what starts to happen? Do you start to notice that you might be getting the symptoms? Expect not to get any of these symptoms, everybody. Expect it. And again, if you happen to get diagnosed, expect to move through it very, very quickly. We already have people connected to this community that have been diagnosed, and they are moving through it quickly with ease and grace. And so expect that if anyone you know or yourself gets diagnosed, you can too, right? And so Holmes tells us not to work. We should work not with anxiety, it says, but with expectancy, and not with coercion, but with conviction. It's time to have a lot of conviction, nor through compulsion, but a state of conscious recognition and receptivity. So we don't have to drive or push. We must accept and believe. We should then leave everything to this universal law, expecting a full and complete proof of our faith of this in this expectancy. And we shall not be disappointed nor chagrined, for the law is our faithful servant.
Yeah, and you talked about some things that, of course, take time. Sometimes things take time, right? As we started out with the gestation of a baby, expecting good manifestations, even right now with the sheltering in place and moving through all of this, it may take time, right? And so I love Michael Beckwith's statement, delay is not denial. Sometimes it's not even delay, it's just the amount of time it takes something to grow, something to heal, something to come into fruition. So delay is not denial, and obstacles don't mean that it isn't working out, right? We don't necessarily believe that we aren't going to have challenges or obstacles along the way. I think that sometimes when we really slip ourselves up, we trip ourselves up, is because when there's an obstacle or a denial or a situation, we think, we become panicked and we think, oh my God, it's not working. And in that moment, we lose our sense of expectancy of the end result, right? So our expectancy isn't of the path. Our expectancy is of the manifestation, the end result.
Yes, and you know, where I learned how to do this in the very beginning and to gain this expectancy was in foundations class. And I think that was right before the 2008 recession. Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, I took foundations class and then the recession started. And learning about these spiritual principles, starting to begin to understand how to do spiritual mind treatment, that affirmative prayer, the greatest spiritual technology there is on the planet, and to put myself in that situation ensured that I moved through the recession actually making more money than I ever did in my life. And so I want to put in a really serious plug for foundations class. Mm-hmm. I'm starting to teach it Monday night, April 6th, online. Doesn't matter where you live. And there's a morning class from 10 to 12:30 Central Time, or an evening class 7 to 9:30 Monday night. So it's on our website, but really, and if you haven't taken foundations in at least 5 years and you want to shore up your expectancy and how to really stay focused during this time, get in this class.
Well, yeah, and that's why I love being in the Troward class, Creative Process in the Individual, people being in your class. We've got some other classes coming up I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. And right now we need all the support we can get, all the reminder of spiritual truth, all the reminder of how we act in this, how we are in this, how we ground ourselves in this, really getting that mutual support, right? And so classes is one of the best ways to engage with not only the instructor, but also then with the community. So hop in those classes. Now, I do want to talk about this idea that sometimes we're uncomfortable with expectancy and expectations. And I notice, I used to do this a lot. Actually, I have to admit, sometimes I still do it. And that is, I'm afraid of expecting my good because I'm afraid that I might jinx it. Right? Or that I'm not really willing to fully claim it because what if I'm disappointed?
And you don't get it.
And well, that's what I mean. I don't, right? And so immediately, do you see, I'm immediately undermining my expectancy. And so it's safer not to expect. It's safer not to put myself out there. And so we really want to pay attention to if we hold ourselves back in these ways. Sometimes we believe, well, for me, I was always waiting for the other shoe to drop too. Something was clearly going to go wrong. So, you know, I might expect my good, but not that it would stay. Right? That plagued me for quite a long time in my life. And then, of course, we can also struggle with expectancy because we don't actually believe we deserve our manifestation. And there's some really powerful work. If you are a being of love and light, if you are the divine made manifest, what do you mean you don't deserve your demonstration? How does that, do we think Spirit doesn't deserve to express all of its highest potentiality and express its life and love and good? Well, that's who you are, Spirit expressing as you. So of course you deserve your manifestation. And it doesn't take anything from anybody else. And sometimes for me too, I have hesitated around my expectancy of good because I'm afraid that it would be too good. and that maybe I would outshine others, and that would cause some impact there, and that they would then go away or think that, yeah, that then I was, I don't know, they have some opinion about me. And so I have held myself back from expecting my good, like really deeply expecting it to play out, because of a fear of how, not of it not working, but of actually it working, and then how what other people will have judgment around about me. So these are all the ways in which we can, we can hold back on our willingness to just really expect our good. And the last thought I want to have too is that we're talking about cheerful expectancy, and to expect our manifestation is completely different than having expectations in a relationship, right? Because we're taught in really having good, healthy, intimate relationships that we don't, and just relationships with friends and family, is that we shouldn't have expectations, which basically means we shouldn't expect other people to be just like us, really.
Or change.
Or change, right? We shouldn't expect them to change, and we shouldn't expect them to be just like us. That is completely true, completely true. But this is not the expectation we're talking about. This is not about us having an expectation about people. This is about having us an expectancy that the law works, that the universe has our back and supports us, and that our manifestation is something we should expect. Do you see? It has nothing to do with this. It has everything to do with the alignment that we have with spiritual truth. This is our trust in the universal principles, not our trust in somebody else, what somebody else is going to do or not do, whether our leaders are doing it right, whether this is happening right, whether these, right, all those things, right? That's placing our trust in conditions and people. We're placing our trust in the universal principle and the universal laws and the impulse of life itself to move as us in the world. Trust our spiritual knowing and what we have claimed. Now, I know that it's a little weird out there, right? It's weird in life, and it can be a little frightening and a little like we don't really know what's happening, how this is going to unfold and play out over the next few weeks, possibly the next few months. And I've been really looking for my own spiritual place to stand, and my spiritual place to really expect the good and expect life still to unfold and be good. And I reflect on the stories that I grew up with from primarily my mother, a little bit from my father, but primarily my mother, who they grew up as adolescents during World War II in Nazi Germany as non-Nazis, non-Jews, non-Nazis, subtle resistors. My dad was at 15 drafted into the German army. They lived in Düsseldorf, which is one of the hubs of the military of Germany, right? One of their hubs. And they spent 3 or 4 years dealing with, Düsseldorf was bombed. 98% of it was destroyed. 98% of it was destroyed. And my mother lost her brother in the war. My father and his family just about starved to death after the war was over because there was no food. And yet they each told me stories of life. Sure, it was challenging. They lived in the basement. They had SS soldiers planted in their house because they were considered resistors, and they listened to BBC really quietly in the middle of the night so that nobody would know they were listening, so that they could get outside news. And 2 or 3 times a week, once the Americans came to the Rhine River, 2 or 3 times a week, leaflets were dropped, and the people in Düsseldorf were told, you have 2 hours between 10 and 12. You have 2 hours. Those 2 hours, you can market, you can shop, you can do what you need to do. We will not bomb during those 2 hours. And the rest of the time, they're not only sheltering in place, they're being bombed. And my mother had amazing stories about that, and how she and my dad met shortly thereafter, and the family pulled together, and the things that they carried on their lives. They had lives, and people fell in love, and babies were born, and right? And this is our personal time to expect our strength and our endurance and our resilience based on our spiritual truths, that we will overcome this. We will move through this. We will come to the other side of this. And we will learn things and grow, and humanity will survive, and life will continue. And we expect to raise ourselves out of fear and sickness. We expect to raise ourselves out of the this disruption into a spiritual reality of health and prosperous lives for ourselves and those around us. We hold this as the inevitable outcome, no matter the outer circumstances or who is involved or what it looks like in the moment. Does this mean it will be easy and perfect? No, it doesn't. However, we are strong in our faith. This is the attitude with which we walk the path of manifesting our lives, because we believe it, we see it, we be it, we do it, and we expect it. And when we expect it, we have amazing experiences and we do amazing things. So
Yeah, I was just going to say, we're going to move to a song by Robin Hackett, Amazing Things. Mm-hmm. And let this be the prayer.
Okay.
And as you listen to this, know that every single person on the planet right now, the prayer is, and the expectancy is, we are all doing amazing things to bring a greater spiritual awakening, a greater manifestation of the oneness of life that is already spiritual truth showing up as each of us in this time. So this is the prayer, that we each do amazing things.
Amazing, you will do amazing things, yes you will. Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing. Choice each new day brings, and with every step you take, bless the progress that you've made. The reason you live is there in every gift you give. So love your life and love your dreams. You will do amazing. Just enjoy what each day brings. You will do amazing things. You don't have to work it out. Just stay in the here and now. Let your mind rest here for a while. Sometimes deepest answers come when we're out there with all the joy that you can. 'Cause you're amazing, amazing. You will do amazing things. We're amazing, so amazing. We will do amazing things. Everybody sing with me. We will do. We will do amazing things. Yeah, yes. We will do amazing things. We will do amazing things. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin Hackett. We expect her to be with us somehow in person or live. One of the Sundays in April, she's just returned back to be with her mom here in Dallas. And so we're doing amazing things as a community, and this is a time where we ask you to continue to give where you're spiritually fed, and how we're spreading this love all over the planet right now. The easiest way to do this is you can go to CSLDallas.org and hit give, and that's a secure way. It says donate. And also you can text give. This is also a secure way. You can text to 972-954-4404. Again, 972-954-4404. And all of us giving something really helps to continue this right here and right now. We're doing things 6 days a week and probably going to 7.
Right. Good. Absolutely. And so while you're working on your giving and using that text app, or getting out on the Facebook, on the CSL Dallas, I want to give you a few announcements just real quick. One, the fire walk has been rescheduled, as you can possibly imagine. It's scheduled to November. If you've bought a ticket, your ticket will be honored, and you'll get new information. We do have 2 amazing classes coming up in the end of April. The first one is Building a Healing Consciousness. Could we have a more perfect class? Building a Healing Consciousness with practitioner Sherry Wood. Oh my gosh, this is an amazing class. She's amazing. You really want to be in this class. If you're thinking about what does it mean to build consciousness about healing, not only physically, but every other area of our life. And then Reverend Marcia and Stefan are going to be doing a Prosperity Plus course, Prosperity Plus 3, online at the end of April. And for anybody who wants to go strong, as Karen talked about, financially strong during this time and into the rest of the year and onward, I highly recommend that you take this class. If prosperity is on your mind, or quite frankly, you can take them both. It's great. It's all great. And so you'll find all that information on our website. All right, we are closing out our Step Out in Faith program. This is the last affirmation from our Step Out in Faith program. I will remind you that Reverend Patty will be mailing it out to everyone so you can complete your poster and so that you have your affirmation. So I'm going to invite you right now to repeat after me. This is our affirmation. Expect it. I cheerfully attract signs, help, and guides.
I cheerfully accept signs, helps, and guides.
With patience, persistence, and perseverance.
With patience, persistence, and perseverance.
I stick to my truth and stay aligned with love.
I stick to my truth and align with love.
I expect and accept a complete manifestation.
I expect and accept a complete manifestation.
And so it is.
And so it is.